All right, it's Gartner DNA Day 2. I'm excited because I'm here with Chris and Sanjeev. Uh, Both of you, welcome to the Ravit Show. It's such a pleasure to host you on the Ravit Show today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Awesome. So I definitely want to learn more about Immuta and what you guys are doing. But Chris, can you tell us a little about you, about Immuta, and Sanjeev, also yourself? What are you doing, and what do you think about data security?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Chris Brown. I'm a field CTO here at Immuta, and really what Immuta is a data security platform, making it easy to have people gain access into data in your large data lakes, whether it's in something like Snowflake, Databricks, Trio Starburst, or other platforms, to ensure that you can do business intelligence and machine learning and AI pipelines.
Thank you for having me once again.
Yes.
On day 2, I am Sanjeev Mohan. I am an ex-Gartner analyst, so this event is like homecoming for me. It's a reunion with my ex-colleagues here, so I'm super excited. I cover data and analytics pretty widely, as you know. Data security is such a critical piece because if we don't have proper access control and governance, nothing can ever be put into production. So this is why I love covering this topic, because it's a linchpin to go production.
That's very true, Sanjeev, and thanks for sharing those details. I'm going to jump right in and want to learn more about what are some similarities and differences between how commercial enterprises and government agencies when it comes to security and governance. How do they work?
Yeah, so what's actually funny is that I tell people commercial organizations and government organizations are actually trying to do the exact same thing, right?
Okay.
Right now everyone's trying to get to this idea of self-service analytics,
Right.
Making sure that you can democratize the data and all that kind of stuff, like all the big buzzwords, right? The big difference is that the time frames in which they operate on.
True.
Government works on a very slow time frame.
Exactly.
Commercial works a little bit faster. Like in a lot of my presentations, one of the things I do is I show the timeline for the federal government data strategy, which they started in 2020
Right.
and goes to 2030, right? And I kick off my things like, everyone's trying to do this, and I understand everyone commercially, this time frame is ridiculously long.
Yeah.
But in essence, everyone's trying to make better use of their data. They want to open it up for analytics and for people to actually explore and create new predictive models,
Right.
new dashboards to get a better understanding of customers or whatever. And the same thing is true within the federal government, right? It's about the citizens and providing better services for the citizens, or in national defense, obviously.
Yeah.
It's about finding the terrorists, it's about finding the sex traffickers and things like that from a criminal perspective.
So Chris, I have a question for you. So I completely agree with you. The business problems are very similar. It could be anomaly in quality for commercial, but then government, public sector has the same thing. So the question I have for you is, how is the funding situation? Enterprises are very tight with their budgets. Commercial, they don't have a competition, right? I mean, the federal government has no competition.
Yeah.
So how is it in?
Yeah, so
Very good question.
I'm taking your job. I'm
It's
doing the interview.
it's like we are cornering Chris, right? With all the questions, we're putting him on the spotlight, which is good.
So one of the advantages about being in the federal government is that those budgets are actually public. And
Okay,
being able to see what's actually going to happen with the budget. I mean, you asked this question at a very interesting time.
Yeah.
If anyone reads the paper, right, we know that we're in these continuing resolutions.
Yep.
There's, they have to pass another one, I think, by the middle of this month for some more funding, still not going to the end of the year,
Yep.
and things of that nature. So right now in federal, it's very challenging for them to plan out, just like in commercial organizations. If they don't have a good view of what's going to happen in the future economically, they can't plan and can't do anything. It's the same thing that's kind of going on in federal, in that because of these CRs in Congress, maybe it's bad to say, is not doing their job. I mean, that is one of their jobs, to pass a budget, right? They haven't done that yet. It makes it harder for these organizations to do this. But again, the government will spend money where it's important.
Right.
And it is very important for them to protect the data, especially I do a lot of work within the national security, right? Making sure that all that top secret data doesn't go to China, doesn't go to Russia, right? Same thing's happening
exactly.
within even the federal space, right? You look at the OPM hack from going all that data going to China. I was part of it, so I got my free monitoring, things like that. So the use cases are the same. The funding can still be challenging, right? Because depending on is it up year, down year, what's going on in the world. But again, the advantage is that you can actually see what's going on. It's in the papers or it's on, it's all publicly available information.
That's very good information. And just on that front itself, so what do you think is on top of the mind of all the public sector folks?
Getting the budget passed because they want to be able to do things.
Yeah.
We work with one of the largest programs within the Department of Defense.
Right.
Called the Ivana program, right? And they're trying to plan out for like new things they want to do, new capabilities, and they're having problems doing that right now.
Yep.
But what we really are seeing, just generally, is we are seeing this big move for people going into the cloud. We're seeing a lot of people getting excited about Snowflake getting their FedRAMP High certifications.
Yep.
It gives them another opportunity for a different platform to be utilized and be able to take, again, advantage of their data to be able to do what they need to do based on their mission. Whether it's providing better services, whether that's like CMS for healthcare, whether it's the Veterans Administration, which we're one of our largest customers, providing out benefits for the VA, or again, kind of protecting people from FBI, Homeland Security, and Army, Navy, Intel community.
Love it. Good information there. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Chris. Also, in terms of another interesting question that I had was, I talked to a lot of enterprise leaders as well, and even those who are just getting into the space of data security. And the big question comes is, okay, how does data security and governance helps in machine learning models?
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because back a couple of booths is a company called Credo, and one of the things they do is in runtime they monitor the models for different things like kind of like fairness. They're kind of on this ethical AI type of thing. And so I was talking with them because we're talking with like a couple of the AI, one of the SIs that they're working with, and I basically said, well, here's the way we work together, right? What's great about Immuta is that we work at the data layer, right? Yeah. And so what's happening at the data layer is the data scientists have to access that data, and so we can actually stop the bias. We can help promote ethical AI at training time rather than waiting until it's in production, right? And we can do that because one of the things that we do is we create purpose-based controls. Think of it as like a data use agreement, right? And in this purpose-based controls, like unless you're working underneath that control and you've agreed to this control that you're going to do a Google model card, you're going to produce metrics with and without bias-causing features, you're going to kind of provide other kinds of information to it. So if you're not working underneath that purpose control, you would not be able to see things like age, sex, race, social economic class. So these are all very well known for being able to produce bias within these models. But if you go and you work in underneath that purpose, that data use agreement, that now opens up to you. And now, because you're now bound by that data use agreement to produce the metrics to show that you're not introducing bias into the model by using them, we can stop that kind of behavior in the beginning rather than waiting until it gets in the end, right? Because we've seen the issues with like mortgage payments, right? And applications, and seeing people not getting applied because they're using lots of AI. That's because of the data that they trained all that on. I mean, AI models just work on what they know, right? And so if we stop bad data going into it, or bias-causing data going into it, we can stop that bias.
Love it. Sanjeev, what do you think?
Yeah, so there are multiple aspects to doing data security in AI.
Yeah.
One is what Chris just mentioned, which is understanding what data goes into the model so the model is not trained on sensitive data. But then there's model usage. Model usage is very hard to do because more or less a black box inside the model. But when it comes to the inference side, then data security comes in the picture again. What kind of questions are being asked, who's asking them, and what kind of results are being returned? Because in spite of your best efforts of stopping bias in the model training, you may still end up giving results that are incorrect or has sensitive information. So this is where data security actually spans the entire breadth, from data going into the model doing its own processing, and then accessing, consuming the data.
You want to add something, Chris?
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, absolutely true. I mean, that's why I talk to a lot of a lot of the other vendors,
Yeah.
right, who are doing some of that stuff in the runtime. Like, I'm not really operating that much in the runtime because there is a complete story that you have to build end to end, like almost anything else in IT.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that, Sanjeev. Also, quick question in terms of what advice do you give to people in the early planning stage of large data modernization projects? Is there anything that you can share?
Yeah, it's one of the things I've been trying to really push on people
Yeah.
is kind of like what we saw with DevOps, right? And we're trying to automate our deployments and builds and all that kind of stuff. What
Right.
people realized was that we had to build security in early,
Yeah.
and it became DevSecOps, right?
Mm.
When you think about what we're doing today with data ops, we're building these data pipelines, we're getting data into these platforms now, we're able to automate this, but when it lands, everyone's like, oh, we forgot about the security, right?
Right.
And I try to convince people that you need to start with that security, right? And we should start changing data ops to data SecOps because we need to build in the security in the beginning rather than waiting to the end and try to build it in backwards, because we've seen that, again, through just normal application development, that's a better way to do it.
Yeah.
Right? And so
Yeah.
I try to get people to focus in on that, and then you can start trying to build all your beautiful data catalog with the perfect, semantic like tagging system
Right,
and all this other
right,
kind of stuff.
exactly.
Because that will come. But yeah, the security is important because if the data is not secure, you can't open it up for people for the use cases that you want it for.
Okay, that's pretty interesting, and thanks for sharing that, where you're solving the problem at the first step
Yep.
itself. It makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to ask both of you one question around the future of security. Where do you see the future of data security going, and how will, I'm not going to go like even a year, in the next 6 months, where do you see it going?
Do you want to go first?
Maybe Sanjeev.
Sure, yeah, no,
you go
I can go first. I want to take up on the points that you just mentioned. So, in data governance, we screwed ourselves. we literally, data governance became an afterthought, it became a patchwork of things to a point where data governance is such a bad word, a lot of companies don't even want to hear it.
Yeah.
Because they failed once, they failed twice, and you show up and you say you have to do data governance, they're like, oh, stop, but you have to do it. So my hope is that as we get deeper into AI space, we don't make the same mistakes. So to your point, we introduce data security, data governance, access control, privileged access management much earlier in the journey and not as a band-aid to AI. And we apply all the best practices of data ops or DevOps, into security. So we should use the lessons that we have learned from agile software development, even product management.
Yep.
And we should do this all. For AI, we should do it correctly right from the beginning. It should be baked in to our AI applications or AI data products, and then we won't have the kind of problems. Because the other thing that's going to happen is today is day 2, like you said. Tomorrow is day 3.
Yes.
You know what's also happening tomorrow?
The sign.
The EU AI Act
Right.
is going into law,
Yeah.
and things will move really fast. And we know how California very quickly pivoted with CCPA and now CPRA. So states like California will have their own version. But if you fix the roof, you don't have to worry about the rain and the leaks. So if Immuta can fix the data leaks, then it doesn't matter, if a new AI Act comes out.
What do you think?
Yeah, I
Chris?
mean, what's going to be coming is I think we are going to see AI start to creep in a little bit to help people understand how to, what policies they should start building.
Right.
Trying to start looking at how people are utilizing the data, seeing if there are actually risks in there, and then trying to filter up that information to the data stewards or the platform owner, whoever's actually responsible for the policies,
Yep.
to be able to get there. And it's not going to be super Chat GPT type of stuff, but I think we're going to start seeing that build in to try to help support the data stewards in being able to create the policies and create them faster.
Love it. Both the insights. Both you guys are fantastic. Thanks for sharing and thanks for again visiting the Rabbit Show. It is such a pleasure. I'm pretty sure folks want to reach out to you. Is LinkedIn good for you both if the audience wants to reach out and learn more about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah? LinkedIn is best. All right, guys. You know where to reach out to Sanjeev and Chris. Both of you. Thank you very much, and it was such a pleasure to
Thanks.
host you both.
It was great.
Awesome.